Tam.
I don't even think we need to say, how are you doing in quarantine? Because I think we're in 2021 right now. I just don't see an end in sight. I think I've just given up hope, and I think that's why I'm super depressed.
It's definitely, we've hit the depression zone now where it's like there's no end in sight. We don't know when normal life will resume. My roots are getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
I was thinking about that. I haven't looked in because I got my hair dyed very safely.
You did?
Which will introduce our next guest who knows a lot about hair. I got my hair dyed outside my house. We were both wearing masks. They did my hair. I think it's too dark.
Okay.
And then I thought about you and I was like, has Roxy gone back to brunette?
I know.
It's blonde. The curtains do not match the drapes. No. Whatever. The drapes don't match the curtains. They just aren't the same.
No, they're not the same. And it's bad when my 6-year-old comes up to me and she goes, Mommy, why is your hair half brown, half yellow? I'm like,
Mommy has a secret hair. She has to tell you.
Exactly. So I'm excited, but I'm also a little embarrassed that our guest, who is like the queen of hair, Miss Alli Webb, the founder of Drybar, New York Times bestselling author, founder of Squeeze. She is like the hair guru. She is here today with us. I am so excited.
We got her. I pestered her until she finally gave in.
Yes. Pay no attention to my roots, Alli.
I mean, look at my hair. It's like purposeful roots.
But yours look really good. They look like they're supposed to be there, you know?
Well, yours do too. It's just you just mentally you don't think they are.
Right.
I mean, I've also had I've had my colorist come over and we sit outside and we wear masks and all that stuff. But I've had more blonde put in my hair, but only at the bottom because I don't want to do, although I have gray. So.
Oh, I have so many grays. When does that happen? When does that start?
Yeah. Old like me. You guys are
No. Oh my God.
I've got so many grays. I pushed my second daughter out and the minute she came out, my entire hair was gray.
Well, brown dry shampoo is like the greatest Drybar, one of the greatest Drybar inventions ever. I mean, especially
it is.
I use it like crazy. I actually use it because you see how you can't see my scalp?
Yeah,
I don't actually have gray right now because I had my hair colored recently, but I use it on my scalp because I think it makes my hair look thicker. It's like a trick that they use like on set and stuff to make hair look thicker. And I discovered it because I started putting brown dry shampoo just on my gray hair that would be at my root, and then it would cover my scalp. And I'm like, oh, my hair looks thicker now.
Yeah. Did you notice like hair loss after pregnancy? Because I feel like Tammin and I both had that, like where the hair like fell out, you know?
I didn't have that. My hair didn't fall out, but my hair has definitely gotten thinner over the years. And my hair has always been really curly, which is, how
same.
I decided to start Drybar because I've been on a, mission to blow out my hair since I was like a little kid, but it's not nearly as curly as it used to be. And I think it's like, I don't know, probably all the blow drying and then the kids and age and all the shit.
Right.
Don't you feel, Roxy, when someone's had their hair done at Drybar, you can, it's such a distinct, you have a distinct smell, which is like, that sounds so weird to like say to someone like, you have a distinct smell.
Yes.
Everyone has that. It's like that Drybar smell and you know that they've been there and obviously their hair looks great, but it's such a distinct thing when they walk out of that salon.
I mean, I hear that all the time. I mean, people tell me they like hug their girlfriend and they're like, oh, you just went to Drybar. It's a pretty distinct smell. Which is funny because the whole coming up with the fragrance thing was really, really challenging because I've never been a big fragrance person. Like I've never worn perfume. I wear oils and stuff. So it was like figuring out most like fragrances hurt my throat. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like gets in there. Yeah.
I'm really sensitive to it. So coming up with the fragrance was quite tricky, but yeah, we seem to do it pretty well and people like the scent. So yes, you can smell. You could even be walking down the street and be like, oh, there's a Drybar close, because it walks out.
Even 6 feet away with a mask on.
Exactly. You have a signature. It's a signature. It's a signature. So, Alli, you are like a true entrepreneur, like in every sense of the word. Did you always want to start your own business and build like an amazing brand like Drybar?
No. I mean, I think it was, it's still so funny to me when people say those kinds of things to me because I know that's what it is. But my parents were entrepreneurs, so I grew up in that world. My parents had their own clothing shops, and my dad's dad was an entrepreneur. My mom wasn't, and my mom's side wasn't. But my mom eventually left her job to open this business with my father, and I just grew up in that world. And I think even as like a teenager, when I've been working since I was like 16. I worked at in the mall at like Express, and I think I worked at Koala Blue. You might know that. Does anybody know that?
I worked at Contempo Casuals when I was in high school. Do you remember Contempo?
I'm Australian, so I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's what I meant. I feel like, she's Australian, right? I did pick up that accent. You don't know Koala Blue? Well, you might be.
Oh, yes. Koala. Well, I know koalas. I've definitely met a few koalas in my time, but Koala Blue is a U.S. brand, right? It's not an Australian brand?
Well, I don't know. And I don't know that it even exists anymore. But when I was like, I don't know, 15, which was, a long time ago, Olivia Newton-John started this. I think it was Olivia. I could be remembering this all wrong, but it was the coolest store. In Boca Raton, there was a shop, and you could buy they had a very cute logo, and inside the shop you could get milkshakes. It was the coolest concept. Anyways, so hold on. Okay. Anyways, my point was I've been working since I was young, and even as a kid, I remember the people who worked with me were always like, "You're kind of making us look bad. Stop working." Because I had this mentality that I grew up with. It was like, you just, you make yourself indispensable and you work your ass off and you treat it like it's your own. And that's all I ever knew. And so I think that's just always how I treated every job I've ever been in. And so I guess there's a sense of wanting to do, you're working this hard, you want to work for yourself, but it really wasn't this it's interesting because now with my podcast, Raising the Bar, and we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and so many of the beginnings of those entrepreneurs are I am, an entrepreneur and I just wanted to do something and work for myself. That wasn't the case for me. It was more about, I just want to start this business because somebody should, and it should exist. And I would I really love it. And I'm really passionate about this. So I'm going to do it. And I had a couple other little businesses here and there over the years. I started this dog walking business when I lived in San Francisco. So random, I know.
But look at all the dog walking services now that you could have exploded maybe if you just kept going with it.
That was a fun business to build. I just realized I wasn't passionate enough.
Right. You have to find your passion. Right.
So I don't think I'm the, quintessential entrepreneur where I was I am just going to do something great and I'm going to build a business. It was the other way around for me. I was I see this massive hole in the marketplace. A place like Drybar existed. It doesn't. And now I have, when we started Drybar 10 years ago, I was I'm so uniquely qualified to do this, more qualified than I am to do anything else. And so I thought, I should do this. So no, it wasn't a big, I want to own my own business. It was more I want to own a business like this.
I've always heard if you want success when you're an entrepreneur, you have to find a problem and then find how to solve it. And I think when people go into a business and they're I want money, or I want success, or I want fame, or I want this to change my family's life because of X, Y, and Z. And it's not going back to basics and the genesis of what is the problem and how are we going to fix the problem. And then obviously the passion and the excitement around it and the love for what you're doing is so important too, because you're the person who has to get up and drive yourself. You don't have a company driving you. Do you remember, because I've had many businesses, some have failed, some haven't. And I think almost, what Roxy and I do in the freelance space, even creating social content and YouTube and podcast and creating stuff for TV, it's entrepreneurial in itself as well. It's just we're our own brand. There's not a service. But do you remember where you were when you thought, this is what I think I want to do with my life? Or did you not even think like that? Was it just I need to fix this problem? And when was that? 10 years ago? What were you doing around that time?
Well, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I had been working in the hair industry for a while, doing cuts. I never did color, and then I really thought that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom forever. When I first had my boys now are 13 and 15, but when I had my first son and I was able to stay home with him, I thought it was I really thought I hit the jackpot, and I was this is amazing. The fact that I'm able to stay home with my baby, and I wanted a baby so bad since I was 16. And so I thought, this was great. And so I stayed home with him, and then my second son was born, and And so it was like 5 years of staying home, and I just started to get the itch to do something for myself again. I felt like, oh, I don't feel as fulfilled as I want to feel. As much as I love my children, I wanted to do something for myself. And so I was a stay-at-home mom at that time, and I was like, I don't want to go back to work full-time. I want to do it on my own terms. And so I started a mobile blow dry business, which is basically what ended up leading to Drybar. And in that business, I was only charging $40 to go to women's home and do their hair. And my whole like premise was, I'll come over while your baby's sleeping and I'll blow out your hair. And then it's 220s and it's and I'm really good at this and this will be great. And that's exactly what happened. And it was great. And I got really busy really fast. And I think that's when the idea kind of started, coming to me of like, what? Because what would happen is my clients were like, well, what, when you can't come over, I either have to go to like the discount chain down the street, or I have to go to, my cut and color salon, and they overcharge me and they want me to get a haircut. So there's pressure. So there wasn't a good option. And that's when I was like, why isn't there a place that just does blowouts? Because surely I knew I had enough friends, and I knew like in LA, there'd be enough like women like me who would love this service. And when I was pitching this idea to my brother, Michael, who ultimately became my business partner in this, he was like, I don't understand. Why don't women do their own hair? And I was like, oh, well, they can't.
Right.
And
Marvel at it. Yeah.
His wife has like stick straight, like beautiful hair. And
right. So it's easier. Right.
Most women can't do their own hair well, especially if they have like curly, frizzy hair like me. So I got him, involved. But it is true what you were saying earlier about solving a problem. And I think that's very true. I also think that that problem can exist, which I like to say this a lot because I think I hear from people a lot like, oh, I wish I had that idea. And how do you come up with a great idea? It is hard to come up with a new concept, a new idea. And I feel like, it was like part luck, part timing, part, hard work. It was a lot of things that I think made our idea work so well. But, there's usually like other businesses out there that just aren't executing well. And that's a problem too. It could exist. It's just not done well. I mean, which is case in point, our other business, Squeeze, which is a massage concept, nobody was doing that great either, which is why we decided to do it. So it is fixing a problem, or, a problem that potentially exists or doesn't exist, or a hole in the marketplace.
So, I mean, also everybody knows that, pretty much, I think every friend of mine has been to Drybar to get a blowout, including, Hollywood celebrities, models, like influencers. You've had it all there. At what point did you say to yourself, wow, Drybar is something special? Like, we have made it. We've landed.
I mean, early on, I remember when we first opened, and it was like, having worked in hair salons my whole life, you don't open a new business to a packed house. And we did, we were incredible, Daily Candy. You guys remember?
Yes, Daily Candy. Yeah.
Daily Candy ran, a really like pithy little article, like hot air blowing into town, about a week before we opened, and bookings like came flooding in. And so we opened on that first day to a packed shop, and then it just never let up from there. And I really remember, it's so long ago now, but I remember that first day, like my brother, my business partner, wasn't fully in at that point because nobody knew if this was going to work. Cam, my ex-husband, who did all the creative, was also like at his job, his advertising agency. But I called them both, and like we were all on the phone crying. I think one of us might have a picture of that. Like we were like, holy shit, like we are onto something. And we realized, really the first day, the first week that, we had kind of inadvertently like stumbled upon something that was going to be pretty massive. And, it was like, we didn't have enough stylists. We were so overbooked. At that point, we had walk-ins welcome on like the window.
Yeah.
Take that sign down because people were like just walking in, but other people were booking. We were fully booked, but then people were walking in too. And we were like, shit, what are we supposed to do? We didn't want to turn people away. And it was just, it was so out of control in those early days. And it was in the middle of a recession. We were like, which also I think I was kind of like operating under the assumption that like women will spend $35 on a blowout and forego the $300 haircut for a few more weeks, for the blowout. So, we did not, expect it to turn like that. And it just kept being thing after thing like that. Like I remember in the first 3 months, an editor from Vogue like came in and she had said, "Oh, I called the Vogue main office and asked her to get a blowout in LA, and they said Drybar." And I was like, what? Like Vogue tells you to come here? And I can tell you stories after stories of things like that, that have happened that, just are like, I mean, mind blowing and, never anything I in my wildest dreams expected. And so, yeah.
Did you hit any major roadblocks did you hit any major roadblocks at any time? Or was it always, obviously there's ups and downs, but was it always, going upwards in an upward trajectory?
No, I mean, there were, you just can't avoid it. I mean, it felt like it was mostly going up, but there were so many issues that constantly came. I mean, from like the way the shop was initially set up and like, not sexy or fun, but like the cords, like we didn't have long enough cords on the blow dryer, so they wouldn't go all the way around the chair, and we had to figure that out. So we put like,
right. But it's important. These things are important because if someone's sitting down getting their hair done and they're getting tangled in the cords, they're not going to come back.
No.
It's all about the experience that we're creating. And so like we didn't have cords that were long enough to go all the way around the chair without having to move the client. And I didn't want the client to be moved because I wanted the client to have this great experience. And so we put like extension cords which was the worst fucking idea. And like one of them like blew up. Like I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
Extension cords because it rubs too much. And then it's like little things like that in those early days that we were figuring out what we can and what we can't do. And then things like our call center. And if you've been to Drybar, you know that like we don't answer the phones in the shops because we did in the early days. And it was like trying to be on the phone, looking at somebody to check them in and out, plus blow dryers, like 12 blow dryers going. Music, you're like, there's no way anybody will get experience here if we answer the phone. And so literally that first week, I was like, don't answer the phone. Let it go to voicemail. We'll call them back. Because I was like, it's more important in this moment to give a great experience to the person standing in front of you on the phone. But the person on the phone matters too. So we just need to call them back from a quiet place. I mean, it was a shit show of a comedy of errors. So many things, I think I used to spend like an hour after we closed, like counting the money and like figuring out our POS system and like, there a gajillion ups and downs. And it really has gone on like that for years. It's like, there's always new problems. There's always new things to solve. But, and then there have been things that have been a bigger deal, but, it's certainly, as an entrepreneur, it's never smooth sailing. It's like whack-a-mole is the perfect way to describe it. It's like solved and another one pops up, and you just have to have the stomach for that, I think.
I think too, when you go into Drybar, it is such a specialized experience. Like, when you go in,
it's always the same. Yeah.
Yes, it's always the same. And it's consistent. And, but there's got to be like copycats out there, right? I'm sure there are copycats that have tried to come after and like replicate what you're doing, but obviously not as successfully. How do you feel when people try to steal your ideas like that?
Well, in the early days, I was like watching other concepts that were popping up, like There was we opened our first shop in Brentwood, and down the street was this in the Country Mart, some other like blowout bar had opened. Actually, somebody who came to us and wanted us to do it, and they were going to do makeup and blowouts together. And I was like, I'm not interested in that, or a partner. So they ended up opening themselves, and I used to like drive by like low, like I wanted them to see. And I remember being like really scared, and there was like a few that were popping up. But what we very quickly realized was that we really had and do have like a secret sauce, and the fact that like my like whole life has been leading up to this. I mean, I've spent so many hours since I was like 20 years old, perfecting my skill and I just know hair so well. I don't think I'm the best hairdresser out there. And I actually think, we have 4,000 stylists and probably, so many of them are better than me. It was just that I really understood hair and I felt like I understood women and I could walk any shop at any time and I can walk around and I can tell you who's like having a great experience and who's like by the look on their face is like not totally sure. And I can get in there and ask and figure out what's going on and see what the stylist is doing. It was just like, when I say I'm like uniquely, I was like made for this job it's really true. And so, while the copycats were really hard in the beginning for me to like cope with. You know, we found, like I said, very quickly that nobody could really do what we were doing. And then and then obviously we moved so fast and we were opening so many locations, and lucky enough to have my brother as my business partner, and he's just a great businessman. And then Kim, who's great at, all the collateral and the way the shop, like all the like touch points of the shop. And then we just had so many great people. And so it's hard to compete with us and what we do. And so it's kind of stopped bothering me. And if anything, and more of my politically correct answer is that the more competition that has popped up has actually helped the industry and movement, at large, because so many women didn't know what a blowout was. I mean, if you live in LA or New York or Texas, like, but I cannot tell you how many women I've encountered over the years that like had never even heard of a blowout. So
what? How did they get through their lives?
Yeah. They were like, oh, like when you go and get your hair cut and colored and they do it after, I'm like, yeah, and it looks better than it.
Some don't even do that. Some just like do a cut and color and then walk out with wet hair.
Yeah, like why?
I'm like, why? Spend $500 to get nothing.
There really this wasn't something that like an everyday woman would do. I think it's like, again, part of the reason that my brother didn't necessarily believe this concept had legs to go really far and wide, across the country, because he's like, I think this is like a thing for LA women who have like, he's going to kill me, but too much time and money on their hands. Yeah. And they do this. I'm like, I don't think so. I think it's just where there's women with hair. And that was always our thing. And like women, once they discover Drybar, once they get a blowout, as you guys know, you're like, oh, I get it. This is amazing. And I can sit and work on my laptop, or I can watch chick flick, and I can just be by myself for 45 minutes and then come out looking great and not have to do my hair for 4 days or 5 days if you're me.
Well, the price point is right too, right? The price point.
I was going to say that. I mean, I think the unique thing about Drybar is that, I know for me, now I have 2 kids and you have to be responsible financially. I mean, I used to get blowouts for $80 to $100 to $120 a blowout, right? And people would go, what? Well, that's how much it costs to get a good blowout near where I live. So if you're getting a crappy blowout for $30 to $40 or a great one for $120, you get your hair done once to twice a month and you do the 121 because you want to look good, right? But then you're so freaked out, like if the kids wet your hair or like you sweat or you go to the gym. But Drybar is so wonderful because it's like you can consistently keep feeling good, keep having the experience, keep getting your hair done, and you don't walk out and you're mad if it's not the perfect thing, or if it is like it's $30. Like we spend $30 on lunch. You know what I mean? So I think that the price point really made it exciting for people to keep coming back and returning. And the product was good. Yeah. You got a good product and a good price point. And I think it exploded. But it goes back to my question about, I know in quarantine now, things have probably changed for your business. And that's hard too. Does that weigh on you mentally? And like, how do you have the fortitude and grace to keep getting up in the morning when you know that things have changed in the last like 4 months?
Yeah. I mean, it has been, it's so surreal. I feel like very helpless. Like there's not much we can do right now, and when this all first happened, I mean, luckily, our employees can go on unemployment, and that's, the saving grace for them financially right now. And there's also, like in the beginning, we did like a big, like blowout sale where we had a day that was dedicated just to stylists, and we're, trying to get creative. And I had all these ideas like, oh, well, we can get stylists to make videos. We can do all this thing, but then they're on furlough, so they can't. And it's just like, it's been, I mean, surreal. It's just the word that comes to mind, because it's like, I feel so paralyzed with like, there's not much we can do. I mean, there's a lot of like prepping for when we go back. There's a lot of like, not the stuff that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, but like figuring out like our lease situations. And luckily we've had the majority of our landlords be pretty forgiving with like that. And, and then we were able to open again, and then we had to close again. And it's just, it's so upsetting and so weird to not be open, especially being open like 7 days a week and being this incredible convenience for women. And, you know, and even when we did open for a little while and, you know, we had to wear masks and everybody was wearing masks, that was also a very different experience than what Drybar is, this very social, fun place to be. Really. So, you know, I'm just, you know, hoping that we can just kind of trying to stay hopeful and, you know, keep spirits up. And we've been doing tons of like, you know, at home videos and tips and tricks for like how to do it at home. And we launched not that long ago, this like blow dryer brush combo thing called the, which is like you blow your hair out, and it's a brush and a blow dryer, like in one. It's phenomenal. And like, you know, so luckily we have some good products out there that like make it easy to do your hair, at home. So that's like the saving grace. But yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't just very challenging and upsetting and just kind of like waiting and just, you know, watching and hoping that things, you know, get better.
You know, it's actually funny that you're mentioning the products. I'm actually wearing the It Cosmetics Drybar mascara. So great. You're so good with like the marketing and like creating all these things. But, you know, with this whole like pandemic experience going on and everything, do you have a plan? Like, I mean, let's just say this pandemic lasts for like 1 to 2 more years. Do you have like a plan in place for what could possibly be like another incarnation for Drybar, or what the future could hold?
You know, I wish I could tell you right now, we're not at that point of like, you know, I mean, for 1 to 2 more years, I don't know that it'll survive. But I don't know, you know, it also depends on what landlords do and what it's just, there's so many unknown variables. Yeah, because, you know, we can't pay rent and we don't have money coming in, you know, so so that's why we've been able to, you know, stay afloat. Landlords have been pretty forgiving. So it's a tough question that we don't really
What
know.
about, would you ever get into color? Because I know, hence my color job.
Come over, Alli.
I had to get fixed. I told you the other day she came over because I had literally would you ever think about maybe going into color at home color kits or something to do with hair and just kind of pivot?
That's not an area. It's not like an area of specialty for me. So it's nothing that I think part of this is that I never did color really. I know how to do it more than most people, but it was never my specialty. And our thing was like, we do one thing and we do it really well. And while I think there's like, obviously, I was just interviewing a girl today who owns, I don't know if you guys know, the Goods Mart in New York, like a high end, like 7-Eleven, and she's doing
Rachel Krupa.
Yeah. She's doing boxes now instead. And I was like, this is genius. And I'm like, it's so cool that you pivoted. Like, I haven't really figured out what that looks like for us. I don't know that any of us have, because, short of doing like home services, which we had done in the early days of Drybar, we did Dry on the Fly, which is because that's how my business started. And so we wanted to keep doing that. But it presents, there's just nowhere near the scalability to do that as Drybar. So yeah, I don't know, something to keep thinking about. But nothing in the works right now in terms of like a pivot like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, switching gears a little bit, talking relationships, which you've been, yes.
We survived. We've just survived.
Right. We're barely making it, like with these marriages
how's your
and quarantine.
Going, Roxy? Some days you want to kill him. Some days you're happy.
Yes. So
depends if you're having sex, right?
Yes,
and then
it does. It's a mixed bag. Yeah, exactly. I'm a little more forgiving during those times.
His bullshit. Yeah,
exactly. But Alli, you've been very open on social media about relationships, and you recently went through the end of your own marriage not too long ago. Why was it important to be open about that on social media for you?
It's interesting because I mean, on one hand, it's like part of me is like feels like no one really cares.
We care.
Yeah, we want to know everything.
On the other hand, it was like I felt like, first of all, Cam and I had like built this business together alongside my brother. And I think there was like, we felt more of a responsibility to like, we were getting a lot of questions from people who worked for us who were like, what does this mean for Drybar if Alli and Cam aren't together anymore? Which really didn't mean anything. I mean, Cam and I have very different lanes and we do very different things. And luckily our divorce is very amicable.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like part of it. I felt like I needed to like put a message out there to the people who worked with us so they understood what was going on. And then I think also there was like this like transparency thing that was important to me. And, you know, I love social media as much as the next girl. But I really like to be authentic to who I am and what's going on. And what I think bothers me, like a lot of people about social media, is this like very like fake facade really happening. And I'm guilty of it too. You know, I've done that. I do that sometimes. And sometimes I really only show the best stuff. And sometimes I'm a little more vulnerable, but I tried to be like, so for the year after my divorce, I was pretty, I mean, it's like, I don't remember exactly what and when I posted, but I was pretty vocal about the fact that I lost a lot of weight. I was really struggling and I wasn't going to be like, well, I'm just going to post only like the few and far between like good moments I have in my life. I'm like, I'm going to post like what's really going on. And I mean, I guess partially because like, you know, I mean, I guess you could say like help people, which it did. And I did get a lot of messages, from other women saying it just was good to hear it from somebody else. And also like, oh, your life looks like it's so amazing and glamorous and you had all this success and you have all this stuff, but oh shit, your marriage is falling apart too. So, you know, it's nice to be that for somebody. I mean, I've had so many women who've been like, I'm not happy in my marriage and this is going on. Do you think I should leave him? And I'm like, I don't know, you know, just like talk about it, you know? So, you know, I think it was like an authenticity thing to answer your question. I think I felt like I wanted to be, you know, authentic to people who've been rooting for me, who've been there for me, and just be like, yeah, my life fucking sucks right now. And it's the hardest thing I've ever gone through. And that's what's going on, you know? And then it's been really so fun to like, obviously, as you've probably seen, like posting about my new boyfriend and
yes, girl.
People are so sweet about that. I cannot tell you how many messages I get where people are like, you're glowing and you look so happy. We're so happy for you. And so that's, you know, that's been really nice. And, yeah, I think it's really just a transparency thing. And I just want to be as like authentic as I can with the people who do follow me, who care, you know?
I feel like when you're going through a tough time, like my social, I'm very open about everything. I mean, I talk about everything and
it's very
like too much. I mean, there was a picture of me like naked with my kids and obviously there was stars covering the butts and we had, it went viral because some people were mad about it. Some people weren't. We started a conversation about loving our bodies and, you know, and what we're teaching our children and what it means. So I'm very open, but it's because I feel, are you going to see my naked pictures? I see it like it is. But I feel like it's really hard. I've always struggled with anxiety and that's been something that's been my cross to bear. And I feel like it's really hard to lie and put up, it's not lying, but put up your highlight reel when there's so many people struggling with so many things and it's a platform to connect and make people feel less alone as well. And I feel like it's also our duty to be honest about what we're going through. I mean, people will look at you and go, well, the founder of Drybar, it must have been just an easy road. You know, I don't even want to keep going because it's so simple and it's been so easy and she's got so much success and so much money or whatever it is. And so people just feel like they're not enough, you know? And I think it's our duty and our jobs to be like, you know what, I struggled too. Everyone has a story that they need to tell that will help the next person tell their story. So I don't know, social media to me is a way to connect with other women who definitely are going through the same thing.
Totally. I know. I totally agree. I think that was part, and I think it was like, it is a little therapeutic, you know, and it's like, and I read every comment. Like I like to hear what people say. I like, especially now, right? It's like this sense of community and connecting to other women and other people who are like, you know, who you feel like, oh man, they're rooting for me. Like that feels good, you know? And so it's a two-way street for sure.
Well, I know somebody who is rooting for you, and that is your new boyfriend. Hi, girl. I know. It's like, damn.
You know where the glow comes from.
Yeah. That is some good stuff happening over there. Super cute. You guys are like adorable together. And I recently saw a post that you posted saying that you had made a choice to fight for this love. What did you mean by that?
Well, it's funny because have, I just posted something today, and I think we're doing an Instagram live tonight. And we've named it this like series we do, Fight for Love. And I think it's because I think what both of us learned from our first marriages was like what not to do,
Yeah.
For me, I got really like, was a major avoider, I think, it was like avoiding all the things that weren't working in my marriage and wasn't talking about them, wasn't dealing with them, and let so many years go by of that behavior. Like, we were building Drybar and I was raising my kids. And then I was like, I think I had a shopping addiction. I was like, filling this void and this thing with other things. And I think what I've learned with Adrian is like to deal with your shit and to have the hard conversations. I wasn't good at that in my marriage. I just like pushed it away, pushed it down, didn't deal, and forget about like the other side. I mean, in terms of like my accountability for why my marriage didn't work, and for his accountability for, his side of the street or what his marriage didn't work. We both didn't like fight for it enough, and fighting for it, I mean, in a way of like not fighting all the time, but, sorry, dogs, Captain and Cooper, they're fighting too, damn it.
We have 2 kids, 4 dogs, and 2 bunnies. I get it.
Yeah. It's like a menagerie.
And you're like, shit, you're at home. It's just
it is what it is. Yeah.
But, I think there's this like, it's certainly not as blissfully amazing as our relationship has been. And I feel like this is like a love I've never experienced, and I'm happier than I've ever been. It's not without its challenges, especially like blending families is like real fucking fun.
Does he have kids too? Does he also have kids?
He has 2 kids who are 4 and 6, and mine are 13 and 15. So it's like teenagers, I mean, it's challenging for a lot of reasons. But, I think that, we've like made this conscious decision to like fight for this relationship versus like when things get hard, saying fuck it, or even not just saying fuck it, but just not talking about it and ignoring it, letting things go, versus like he doesn't let anything go. Like I'm like, babe, it's fine. Let's just like agree to disagree, or let's just like move on. And he's like, no, we are going to keep talking about this. I'm like, oh my God. But it is good because it's like, we get through stuff that way. And I the whole premise of like Fight for Love is like, fight to keep this I keep saying marriage, and it's like,
are you getting married?
Yeah. Do you want to tell us something?
No, we're not talking about that at all. But I think it's like so many years that you think I talked about my relationship as my marriage, and it doesn't feel like a marriage. We're living together. What is marriage besides a piece of paper? It's like a commitment 2 people have, which we have, But anyways, I mean, I think we've made the decision to just like really give it our all. And, obviously it'd be easy to walk away at times and like go especially for me, because my like, and I don't know if you guys are like this, but like when things start getting rough, I'm like,
I like to go out. I just leave the house.
Yes.
He says that to me all the time. Like when you're upset, you go cold and quiet, Well,
but you're allowed to, this is the thing that my therapist has said. She said that you're allowed to take a breather. My husband always says to me, like, why, when we're fighting, do you leave the room? And it's like, because I don't want to scream at you or throw a shoe at your head. Like, I need to process, calm down, take a breath. And it's funny because every time I get in the car, there's one like traffic light that every time I hit that traffic light, I call him and I apologize. And it's like, I don't know what it is. It's like that time that is needed. It's like the 10 minutes that's needed for your limbic system to calm down. And so you're not like, Alli, you don't seem like that person. Roxy and I are like,
I need to take tips from you guys.
You do. I mean, Alli just seems like she's sweet. She's like, you know what? I don't like that. And she like retreats.
Yes.
We're like,
well, what I do is I get in I just fight right back. I don't think about what I'm saying. I go from like 0 to 60.
I don't think about what I'm saying either. And I said something yesterday so bad, and like it wasn't so bad. It was like a F you or so, you know what I mean? Like it's not like it's just a typical one.
Yeah.
And he was so nice about it, and he's like, "Good night. You're obviously going through something." And then the next day, I said, "Did that hurt you?" And he's like, "Yeah, it really hurt me." And I was like, huh. Because we just say it like, Roxy and I just say it because we just think it's the words, and words don't really affect, right? The people that you love. but they do. So you have to be careful about the things that you say when you're fighting.
Well, and like, listen, like I think I'm like a sweet person, but I definitely will explode too. But I think I also learned that a lot in my first marriage. I exploded a lot, and I don't do that nearly as much as I used to. But first of all, I agree about the space. Like, you need a little bit of time to like cool down and like let cooler heads prevail. No joke. But and Adrian will say that to me sometimes too, and he'll be like, it deeply affects me when I know you're upset, when we leave off badly. And I'm like, it does?
Yeah, you don't think, right.
I'm like, no. I'm like, you're fine. You'll just like, sometimes like even at night, if I'm like throwing a fit and like he's going to sleep, I'm like, you're just going to sleep. You don't even care, And he's like, no, I have a hard time sleeping on those nights, And I'm like, really? I mean, it's a weird thing. I don't know if it's like a womanly thing or what.
It's a conversation we've had forever since I was raised, is like guys just kind of are fine and they suck it up, and women are allowed. I almost think we still have to be accountable for our actions. We have to be careful that like now it's the woman's time, and I'm obviously a woman, I'm raising 2 young girls, but women still need to be accountable for the things that they don't do right.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's certainly times where I'm like, I mean, he makes a joke that I like throw a grenade and then leave the room,
I do the last word, right?
Have to.
Like, and boom, and then he's always like, drop the mic, drop the mic.
Well, I think too, it's hard to make yourself vulnerable in these situations. Like for me, it's like I have to have some sort of a protection, and maybe those protections are my fighting words with him, and it's like, well, I'm going to hurt you before you can hurt me. Kind of a
exactly.
Thing, right?
I think if you're vulnerable, which is the hardest thing,
yes,
and you can, like get off it and be like, it's more about like the anger. Underneath the anger is always like hurt, right? Or being upset. So
pain, always,
always, right? So you can get off that, which I'm not great at either. But if you can do it, then you're like, let's just get to like what's really wrong. What's and he'll always be like, give me a chance, like tell me how you're feeling in the moment, because like I will be upset about something, I won't say anything about it. I'll just stew and be having a fight with him in my mind, and then and being like cold and distant. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm like, well, because you were blah, 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 blah. And he's like, why didn't you tell me then? And I was like, because what was I going to say?
Okay,
I think hormones play such a major role too. But we do say, and we blame hormones for, I think, a lot of our lives. We're just like, that entire week, I have a pass. I can just be a total raging bitch lunatic. I have a pass. But it must be hard. And I'm trying to be a man for a second. Like, imagine the men that we're married to or dating. They say, you know what, guys, for an entire week,
we're going to be an asshole
to you. I'd be like, excuse me?
Well, I mean, I think that is true. I mean, I think that I posted about this today. Like we had a thing this morning, and in my mind, I was like, I haven't said this to him yet, but I'm like, I think I'm actually like PMS. I'm about to start my period. And I think I'm a little extra sensitive now. I realized that today. So yeah, it's a pass. Like, so babe, you just have to understand, because this is but, sure, men don't, neither sex should have this like pass. But there are so many times too where he's just more sensitive and emotional than he normally is. It's like, it's like riding the fucking storm. It's never easy.
Wait, I also feel more reassured now that you also have fights in your head. I have like imaginary fights in my head with him. I'm like, fuck you. No, fuck you. You're an asshole. It's like back and forth, the back and forth.
Well, I think I learned that. I don't know that I understood that concept until, so Adrian is a coach, like he coaches founders living, which, is like good and bad for our relationship. But they do these retreats, him and his business partner, and I've been to them before. And they started talking about like, they talk about this, like you have these things in your head that you don't say, whether it's like a fight or whatever, or like somebody will, like your husband might ask you a question like, whatever. And like you hesitate, you don't say anything for a minute, but in your mind, you're being like, well, because you were a fucking asshole, I fucking hate you.
Yes.
Because I say
that. Yes, it's true. I said it too.
Something that's in your mind that you're afraid to actually say. And like Adrian will be like, I'll be quiet for a few minutes. He's like, okay, can you tell me now what you were just saying in your brain? Just say it, and I'm like, oh, I can't say that. but you should, and I mean, I think good relationships, which I've learned from him so much, is like, if both people are being really open, authentic, and honest with what's going on for them, as much as it is hard to hear, I think it's a quicker way to get, to a good place.
Yeah,
this is why you guys are evolved, because I do say everything I think. Like, actually, no, it's not good. Actually, not to like you guys. I wouldn't say everything I think to you guys, but to my husband, I say everything I think, to the point where he actually said, "You don't actually have to tell me what's on your brain all the time." And then after the fight happens, where I've said all the terrible things, then I have the refight in my head about the things I should have said. And I'm like, oh, that would have been a better zinger. Yeah. That would have really got him.
Why is it that we feel like we can say whatever we want to our partners? Like, I would never say to my girlfriends like the things that I say to him. I wonder why that is. Why
you would never say you're an asshole. You would never say that to me. No. You would think it, but you would never say it.
No, it's so true. I mean, I remember that even from like growing up with my parents. Like, I remember my dad and my mom having that fight. I mean, they ended up getting divorced, but I was like, why are you so nice to everybody else, but then you come home and you're like a dick to mom? It's like, well, it's this thing of like, well, that's the person that you like can be that way with and treat that way. But and I think I kind of grew up with that sense, but I don't really subscribe to that anymore. And I mean, I think that at this point, like, I think from what I learned from my marriage was that, you can't get away with that for too long.
Don't you think that your second relationship might be better because you also didn't have to go through the newborn kid stage?
Oh, yes.
Diapers. I mean, like, what we talk about literally is about poo and vomit. Like, that's literally our conversation.
It's
money,
so
poo,
unsexy.
Vomit.
Yeah.
It's so not sexy.
Yeah.
So maybe because you bypassed that and the first kid's 4, you said, like, so you're kind of out of that stage.
Yes, I thought that too. But I think, without getting like too into the details, it is not, trying to like figure out your place as like a
stepmom, right? Almost, right?
Like, yeah, because I was going to say, because we're not married, so I'm not technically, but I am, like, I spend half of my time with these children. And it's hard to, if you guys think about your own kids. It's like, you love your kids, they love you. You just put up with the shit because.
Yeah.
Right.
But then, you have a 4 and 6-year-old who dish out the same stuff, but it's not your kid. And
how do you discipline them? Yeah. It's like.
Discipline and just the feelings, like, I don't get the kind of like love and affection from those kids because they're not mine. And of course I get that, but like, it's really, really challenging. I mean, it is a really big spot of like, for me. I mean,
there are times that I don't like
honestly talk to him about it, which I didn't for a long time because I was scared to tell him how I was really feeling. And now I have, and it's much better, but not easy.
Yeah, one of my best friends said that she's struggling with a step kid. She's got 2 kids and she just married, and he has 1 kid, and she just said, sometimes you don't even like your own kids. You're not even allowed to say that, but sometimes you're just like, oh, I'm just so over you. But you can't, you love them because they're part of your body. So, they're a piece of you. It's like an extra arm.
You love them, but you don't like them in the moment.
But I would probably find it difficult. Obviously, if you love your husband or your boyfriend that you're dating, you develop love, but I would find that situation difficult.
Yeah.
It's very different. It's really, and it's like, there's moments that it's like, it's great and it's all like working really well. And then there's moments where I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. It's a mixed bag of emotions. It's not easy.
Is that the hardest part of blending the families together? Do you think, being like kind of taking that role on?
I think so. I think that's, I would say, of our relationship, that's definitely the most challenging part is figuring out how to navigate through all that. To the point where like I started seeing a therapist again about it because I'm like, and like, wanted to talk to other women about it who've like gone through it. And luckily my best friend has dealt with some of this. And, but it's, it's a really like humbling experience, and you have to be very, just like expect nothing, and be very giving. And then you just have to go to a really like good place and, you know, and then you're dealing with like an ex-wife all the time too. And it's like,
a killer.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Well, we're almost at the end. You're like, yes, just kidding. We're going to do a never have I ever, which is like, you just say, I don't even know the rules, Roxy. Do you know the rules?
I think you just say if you have or you haven't.
You just go, I have or I haven't. Yeah.
Yes.
We've done it for like 92 episodes and we're like, what are the rules? Okay, so you go first, Rox.
Okay. Never have I ever not showered in this sort of quarantine period. For like days, like more than like 1 or 2 days at a time.
Oh, yeah. No, I have definitely not showered for many days. I mean, I've taken baths here and there, but definitely not showered for at least like 2 days.
You got it. You're conserving water. It's good. It's environmental.
Never have I ever. When Drybar started, I think that was social media, but started like stalking other people who had the same type of business than you and just kept like stalking people.
Are you saying, have I ever done that?
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah. I've done so many people.
And you do like deep dives and then you realize like 2 hours is gone.
Guilty.
I think I'm still doing that. Right, Roxy?
Right.
Aren't you doing that?
Oh, I mean, you have to. What else are you going to do in quarantine? I mean, come on.
TikTok's the worst. You start TikTok and you're like, it's 1 a.m.
True.
Yes.
Very, very true.
Yes. Okay. But never have I ever, when you were doing hair, when you were styling people, never have I ever wanted to kick a client out of the chair because they were just being fucking obnoxious.
Oh, yeah. I shouldn't say who, but it was actually a pretty big celebrity who was awesome to me. And I was like, I wanted to be done with that so bad.
And what did their name rhyme? What does their name rhyme with?
I know. Please tell us. Nangelina Noli.
Yeah.
Rhymes with
like every celebrity under the sun come in except for her. She's not been in, so it's not her.
Oh, what's like the best celebrity you've had? Or like the one that you were just like, oh my God.
I think you're friends with half of them though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Gwyneth Paltrow is probably the biggest. I'm actually not friendly with her, but we have a lot of friends in common, that kind of in the same circles. But yeah, she used to come in all the time with Apple, and I remember like the first time she came in. But I mean, it's like runs the gamut. I mean, you name them, they all come in. And I remember when that first started to happen, and I was like, I didn't go and introduce myself and whatever, and I'd say like in a really like warm way, like, how come you come in? Like,
yeah, you've got a lot of money. Yeah.
And it's the same response anybody else does. It's like, oh, because it's like, I love the experience. I love being in and out, leaving my house. I like that it's cheap, like, you know, like anything else. So I remember, like, I've gone and done Jennifer Garner's hair a couple times, and she goes to our shops, but she always preferred to go to our Santa Monica location because our Palisades location which was also close to her. It was like, it's like a fishbowl. It's all glass in the front. And she's like, there's always paparazzi, and that's kind of annoying. In our Santa Monica.
Same with Roxy and I. You're outside right now.
Oh my God. We're like, go away, Paps. Okay.
We're like, can you guys please? I know. We'll be done soon. Okay. Okay. 2 more. Okay. Never have I ever, this might be too naughty, but never have I ever been like doing sexy time and been like, you don't want to mess the hair up. Because I feel like every time I get my hair done, like I have sex. And then the whole time I'm like, oh, just don't move around too much. Like I don't want to ruin my blowout.
It's so funny. I literally was I don't know if I was doing an interview or I was just telling somebody about this, but I must have been doing an interview where I was telling somebody that, you know, so many women say they don't go to like, you know, like a board meeting or an important, you know, interview or a date without a blowout. And that like, I would even hear from like these women that their husbands were like, didn't mind they were spending so much money because they were getting lucky.
Yeah.
Drybar because they had this like confidence in like that they didn't have all the other time. So that makes sense that you're like, when I get my hair done,
I'm always like, don't touch the hair. Don't touch the hair.
You know,
like, have your conditioner on, keep like the sweating on.
I just don't move I move my body from here down, but my head just stays like this.
You know what? There have probably been some Drybar babies that have happened. You've probably gotten people pregnant.
I think I have 2 of them in my house.
You've probably gotten people pregnant, Alli. Didn't even know. Amazing.
Okay, last one, Rox.
Oh, okay. Okay, this is very naughty. Never have I ever had sexy times, but called out the wrong name.
Oh my God, I've never done that.
But who calls names during sex, right?
Well, sometimes nicknames.
Yeah. What's your nickname?
Well, I can't tell you that.
That's like your meditation word. When they give you a meditation word and they're like, don't tell anyone. So no one can listen. No one's allowed to know your nickname.
I have one.
Okay, tell.
No, I have a transcendental meditation.
Oh, what is that?
What is it?
It's secretive. But no, I've never said the wrong name. But yeah, I don't think I really say names. I think it's more like.
Are you like more quiet? Like quiet?
Babe, she's like, stop talking. Roxy's like,
I know, like, David!
No wonder you're like, your neighbors moved out. They're I'm done.
I know. They're like, bye. Gotta go.
Well, thank you so much, Alli. Thank you for running the gamut with us.
I know. We like to get a little crazy here, but
it's so fun.
So fun. You were great. And
so where can people find you?
Yes.
You can find me, probably the best place is just my Instagram. It's just Alli Webb, ALLIWEBB. There's the Drybar for all Drybar stuff, and Squeeze, our other business. And I have a couple more projects things that I'm working on. So stay tuned.
Hair related? Are they hair related?
Well, I have a couple businesses that are coming up that are not hair related. Okay. And then we have, but like in the feel good space.
Okay.
And then I'm writing my second book, which the first book was like very much like a hair tutorial. And this is more of a like life story memoir, which feels weird because I'm not 80, but I'm working on that now too. So some fun stuff.
Oh,
well, you're inspiration for all of us.
Quick question, Alli. What is the one hair tip that every woman should know? Like, is there one like solid tip that people should always subscribe to?
There's a lot of them, and it's like so dependent on your hair and all that stuff. I will say that most women, especially, which is very timely because we're all doing our own hair, most women rush through their blowout at home and they don't section their hair. Or if they do section it, they section a massive section. Your section should be 1 to 2 inches at like a thickness, and that's it. And it can take you a little while, like at least 20 minutes to blow out your hair. And I think a lot of women like go really fast. And they're like, why doesn't my hair look like it did? When they did it, it's sectioning. Most people don't do it. Section your hair.
Okay, good to know. And make it last. It'll last all week.
If you put the time in up front.
Yes, that's a good point.
As long as you don't move your hair in the sack.
Don't let them touch it.
And on that note, and we are Women on Top Official on Instagram.
And Women on Top Podcast on Facebook.
And I'm Tammin Sursak.
And I am Roxy Manning.
And we are
Women on Top.